Welcome back, everyone. Today is challenge number 4, and we're going to get all emo today. We're going to get emotionally connected to our desire. And this one is going to tie very much so with the challenge number 3, which was all about creating a meaningful desire. And when we create a meaningful desire, we actually move from I have to I want to. And that's where the magic happens, and that's what we're going to be talking about today on challenge number 4. So a little while back, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what it is. What's the difference between a person who chooses to move forward, who says, I want to create something, they go out and they create it, versus somebody who says they want to create it and nothing ever actually happens. So I reached out to a bunch of business owners and I said, what do you notice when it comes to people taking action in their lives? What's the difference between the two? And there was a lot of different really good answers that came up. Of course, the number 1 answer was fear, but we're going to focus on the number 2 answer here today. And the number 2 answer for why people have not been able to take action in their life is because they are not emotionally connected to the desire. Now, I've actually seen this firsthand. I actually used to have a team member. He wasn't really producing a whole lot and we couldn't figure out why. And I was trying to work with him. And it seemed like every time I told him, hey, try this, he would say, yeah, that's great. And then he would never try it. So he wasn't taking action on the steps that we were putting in front of him. Looking back on it, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, he really didn't have a whole lot of emotional connection to creating this business that he thought he wanted to create. So I have to do this, I have to do that. And it was hard for him to get motivated. What we're working on today is get to a place where we're saying, I want to. So the roadblock on challenge 4 is that we are not emotionally connected to it and we're living in a place of have tos. So not only is it very challenging to get ourselves motivated to go create what we say we want to create when we're living in this place of I have to do it, when we're not emotionally connected. But even if we do find the motivation to go out and say, I have to do it, and we figure out how to do it, it's not a whole lot of fun. We don't really enjoy the ride. And even if we get the spoils of whatever it is that we're trying to create, we might not be super excited about that either. So if we can smash through this roadblock of, I just have to get it done, smash through this and become emotionally connected to what we actually desire, that's when we get to live a life of I want to. And that's what makes this challenge so powerful. Now, in my last video, I talked about my journey going from a teacher to a real estate agent and eventually being able to create a successful real estate business. And the reality is, was I the question I should say is, was I emotionally connected to the outcome of creating a successful real estate career? And the answer to that is yes. And that's why this one and challenge 3, meaningful desire, work so well together. Because I didn't have a meaningful desire, but I did have an emotional connection. And the reason that I didn't have a meaningful desire was because I didn't understand why I wanted to create a successful business. But I still had an emotional connection because I had a chip on my shoulder. I wasn't going to let anybody know that I was a failure. I wasn't going to have any of that anymore. People had told me that I wasn't going to be successful. I felt bad about myself. I wanted to prove something to everybody. That was my emotional connection. Was it powerful? Yeah, absolutely. It was a very powerful emotional connection that drove me towards an end game. But the reality is, because I was driving towards an end game that really didn't have value to me, I got there and I wasn't super excited about it. I got depressed, in fact. And so that's why we talk about creating a meaningful desire first, which is going to not only help us emotionally connect, but make sure that even if we are emotionally connected, that we're going in the right direction. Now, the reason that I'm sharing this challenge with you here today is because I wholeheartedly believe that this is absolutely possible for you. I've been lucky enough to move from I have to I want to. I still have some have tos, don't get me wrong. But I definitely live much more from this place here, and I know that it's possible for you too. And so for this one, I've actually got 2 different solutions for you today. The first solution to crushing the roadblock of, I'm just not very emotionally connected to this outcome. It's a bunch of have tos. The first solution to crushing that roadblock is to figure out why you have this desire in the first place. It's not something that you can fake. I had somebody in one of my classes not too long ago tell me that they wanted to be more punctual. And he was just having a really hard time emotionally connecting with being punctual. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that, it's not like a supercharged, I really want to do that. So what we did was we started going down the why hole. I started asking him lots of questions. Well, why do you want to be punctual? And ultimately we went deeper, 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 deeper. And we got to a point where we started talking about setting a good example for his kids and being the best version of himself. Now that was something that he could emotionally connect to. Yes, I want to be a great father. Yes, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be punctual because that represents something so much deeper. So the first option is to look within yourself. What are you trying to create in your life? What is the desire that you're trying to create? And if you're not emotionally connected to it, is there something underneath that? Do you want to build a successful business because you want to provide for your family? Do you want to build a successful business so that it means you can go on to the next steps in your life? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? If you can define why, then you can start to emotionally connect to your actions. And that's what's going to drive you forward. That's what's going to push you through this roadblock. Now, the second option is just as viable as the first, but it means we have to completely start over. So the second option is, you know what, this just isn't working for me anymore. I cannot figure out an emotional connection to creating this thing in my life. Maybe I should pursue something different. Yes, that's a lot harder. Yes, you might be starting from square one, but think of what would be possible for you if you were brave enough to make yourself uncomfortable and face your fear and just call a spade and say, this isn't working. I need to do something completely different and really dive in with both feet into something brand new. Once again, we're not talking about being reckless. There's always a way to put a plan in place to make shifts and do these kinds of things. But it's possible if you're not having an emotional connection to your daily life or what you're trying to create, that maybe that's not what you actually want and you should be looking to do something else. So for this challenge, it's all about exploring your emotional connections to what it is that you say you desire. Remember, this one works really well with challenge number 3 as we create our desires, we get emotionally connected to it. So now you have some time to play around with this, whether it's for the next day or week or whatever, you have some time to play around with it and find what emotionally charges you. Because once you find that emotional charge, look out. There's no stopping you. Just think of what would be possible for you if you're like, yes, I want to go create this. Nobody's going to stop you. And so that's how we crush this roadblock. We dig, we discover, we explore. So good luck as you go out and crush challenge number 4. Have some fun and explore. And I will see you tomorrow for challenge number 5, where we start talking about game plan. See you tomorrow.